We were able to see from our research, from looking at art of the title, that all film openings had a institutional context logo. Therefore, we decided to follow this convention of a movie and create one of our own. This was the one that we made. In our research, we looked at many film openings on Art of the Title, and we noted down all the timings of all the different titles that appeared, such as edited by, directed by, and looked at how they were all written, so whether they said director and then the director's name, or directed by. And we found that there were conventional ways that most of them did this. They all sort of followed the same patterns. So after finding this out, we decided that we would follow this form of a film opening and do the same for ours. So we created lots of titles, and our opening therefore has many titles in it and has phrases such as edited by and directed by. We also saw that directed by was usually the last title to be shown, so this is why in our horror movie we followed this and also had directed by as the last title. This is something we saw from our research, James Bond having directed by as the last title, and here you can see our own production having directed by as the last title. You can also see here that Skyfall, the title of the movie, is one of the first things that appears, as is our title, The Concealment, in our film opening. They do have Daniel Craig's name before, however we didn't have a famous actor in ours, so we didn't choose to put our actors before the name of the film. We also followed the general conventions of a horror movie in the way that we used camera shots. We used our high angle shot, low angle shots, panning, we used close ups, mid shots, we used a variety of lots of different shots, and we found that so did lots of other horror movies. This is very different from how we began, just being able to do shot reverse shot and very simple shots, to being able to follow this convention of panning. We decided to follow this convention as we thought it was a very good way. We thought that a variety of shots was a really good thing to have, whereas if we didn't have variety in length and variety in style, we thought it could get quite boring for our audience. We thought this was something that you really needed to make a horror movie a horror, because if we didn't have the same types of shots as other horror movies, it wouldn't be as scary. It might be quite boring and sort of repeating itself if it had the same kind of shots and the same lengths the whole way through. I don't think it would attract the same kind of audience. Our main film title was very different to the normal horror film, which would usually be red, such as Sweeney Todd's is red because it includes a lot of blood and gore and violence. However, we thought that ours didn't really include much violence or blood, so we made it similar to The Conjuring, which is less typical of a horror movie. We thought that while this didn't represent horror films as such, as it wasn't red or dark or dingy, it did still give like a mysterious feel, which is what the film's all about. It's about the unknown and like the dead sort of coming alive and things like that. So we thought that was much better suited, rather than having a gory title that made it out to be something it's not. We decided to just take out any happy colours. It was a white plain colour, no yellow, bright blue, nothing like that, so that you could tell it wasn't going to be a happy film, but it just left a mysterious feel. Our horror film had some typical themes that usual horror films may have, such as good versus evil, In our film, this is represented by the good, who were the living people, the family who the story was based upon, and the bad, who was the dead brother. Religion, this was used in the way that the people in the film cured their problem of death trying to enter their life. We also had the theme of revenge. Her brother feels like he needs to get a revenge against his sister who stayed alive rather than him. He feels she should be punished for this. It also has themes of supernatural and being going beyond death. This relates to how the twin can still affect things that are happening on Earth, such as the little girl's thoughts. There's also themes of envy because the twin is jealous that his sister is alive and not him. In our horror film, we have gone against the typical conventional characters that you would often see in horror type films. For example, children in horror films are often seen as creepy or there's something wrong with them. For example, in this clip in Orphan, you can see how this child is unusual and not like a child you would see today. You can see from the close-ups on the weapons in this extract that she might be a bit suspicious that she might not be able to be trusted with these weapons, such as the knife and the scissors, and the way she forcefully sort of rips the material apart shows that she might be a violent child. And the mise-en-scène used, such as her outfit and makeup, shows that she might be more grown up than children usually. Whereas in the next clip, you can see in our horror film how we've gone against this conventional creepy child image, and we've shown a normal child with her Moshi Monsters lunchbox, getting home from school, doing just what any normal child might do, sort of running up the stairs, and sitting on her bed, playing with her toys, what any child might do, very normal, so that our audience can relate to this and see this as, oh, this is just a normal family like our family, and feel that sometimes it makes them feel more scared when they're watching the film, as they can relate to it more. And that's why we decided to go against this convention like this, because we thought it would be an interesting way to portray a horror movie, making it feel so realistic and different to the normal thrillers and horror films that you see these days. We have also gone against the conventional villain that you often see, such as a clown or a man or something like this. Rather than being a living thing, it's something dead, it's a spirit, a dead child, which wouldn't usually be seen as something that's going to be of harm to anyone. You can see that compared to something like the Joker, where he's seen, he's got so much makeup, so much mise-en-scène to make up this villain character, compared to our mysterious child, you can only hear the voice of him. We thought that that worked really well and was going to be a really good part of our horror movie so that you could see the unknown and the fact that they're actually really scary, something that you can't see but can only hear. Is very frightening sometimes, especially to a young child. Narrative theories such as prop suggested that male characters are usually the hero. However, in our horror movie, we go against this conventional thought as the mother in the film is the hero and the daughter. Therefore, this shows that we've gone against the norm and we've thought outside the box, thinking that the woman could be a strong, independent mother who's out to help her child, which is a less typical storyline, I think. And so I think that's what will attract our female audience the most. However, you can see in more recent films that female characters are becoming more and more the hero, such as in Orphan, which is also similar to this. The mother is the hero at the end. She gets rid of the child who's causing the family so much hassle. And I think this is because of the recent rise in feminism and the growing idea of the strong, independent woman that society has. This shows when the mother kills the younger child in Orphan that has been giving their family such grief, and shows that the mother is the hero in this family. I feel that we went against the usual forms of the horror movie in the way that we used the lighting. We wanted our lighting to look really realistic, unlike the usual non-naturalistic lighting that you see in many horror films, and that can usually appear very dark in order to create a creepy atmosphere, but we wanted it to look more realistic so that people could really relate rather than just seeing it as another fake horror film. I feel that in our horror opening we also steered away from the very conventional settings that most horror movies can have. For example, in research, we saw that many horror films took place in spooky settings such as dark woods, cabins, and houses that are very isolated, such as Last House on the Left. However, from the beginning of our film, you can see the car driving home and it's going past many, many houses, meaning that you can already see from the very start that the house is surrounded by lots of people, which gives the house a less spooky feel. And this also helps it to be more realistic and create that real environment so that our audience again can relate to this and understand from the characters' point of view what's going on and how they're feeling, because they're a similar family to them and they're in a similar situation, they're living in similar places. We also decided in our horror opening not to include the usual disturbing, non-diegetic sounds that you would hear in conventional horror films. We seem to have more realistic sounds to intrigue our middle-class female audience, as from audience research we saw that many girls prefer more realistic films. Therefore, horror films, for our horror film, we used sound effects that were all diegetic. For example, the girl running up the stairs, her mum making a cup of tea, and the door slamming sounds, making it seem very realistic, and only having the background music as non-diegetic sound.